Hey guys, I'm going to show you guys how to do simple interest, okay? Simple interest, for these problems, it says an account earned simple interest. Part A says to find the interest earned, and part B says to find the balance of the account, okay? So for all of these, you're going to be using this formula. And I'll explain what each of the variables mean in just a bit. So the formula is going to be I equals P times R times T, okay? I represents interest earned. So jot these down in your notes. P means the principal, which is basically what you start with. Okay. And then R is basically the interest rate. So it's always a percent. Interest rate. And it's going to be a percent symbol. Okay. And then T, which is time. And it's always going to be in years. This is going to be important. Okay. It's always going to be in years. So in the first example, the example says $700 at 3% for 30 months. Okay, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna start plugging in these numbers into the formula. Okay, so this right here is actually the first part that I'm trying to answer. It's this right here. It says find the interest earned, okay? Interest earned, well, I don't know what that is yet. I'm trying to solve for it. So I'm actually going to leave that variable there. And then P, so P is what you start with, okay? In this case, it's 700. So 700 times the rate. Now, the rate has to be in decimal form. So I have 3%, I have to change it. So I'm going to move the decimal over two spaces to the left. So my answer is going to be 0.03, and I'm actually going to put this in parentheses. And then, so that's rate, and then time has to be in years. Remember I told you that this is important, that it has to be in years. So I have 30 months. Let me do that right here. If I have 30 months, to change it into years, well, how many months are in a year? There's 12 months in a year. So 30 has to be divided by 12. And you can just plug this into a calculator. 30 divided by 12, and the answer for that is going to be 2.5. Okay, so 2.5 is going to be the time that I'm going to plug in here. Okay, now I basically just have to solve for I. So I equals, and you're going to plug in this into a calculator. So 700 times 0.03 times 2.5. If you plug in that into a calculator, you're going to end up getting $52.50. Okay, that's how much interest was earned. That would be the answer for part A. So for part A, this is what I get. Okay. Now for B, part B is asking me about the balance. It says find the balance of the account. Okay. So balance equals principal times, sorry, not times, plus the interest. Okay. Oops. So in this case, the principal is what you started with, so that would be the 700 that I have over here. So 700 plus the interest, which we already solved for. That's this right here. So the interest is 52.50, which means that the total, if you add these two numbers together, would be 752.50. And we're talking about money, so dollars. That would be the answer for part B. That's the balance of the account. Okay. Now, for some of these problems, they actually have you solve for a missing variable. So let's say that you have an example where they give you 192. They tell you that the interest earned is 192. They tell you that the principal is $800. And then they tell you that the time is 8 years. Okay. So one of the variables is missing. If you think about the formula, right? I equals P times R times T. They give you I, they give you P, they give you T, but they don't give you R, which is the rate, okay? That means that that's the variable that we have to solve for. So we're gonna plug these numbers into the equation. So we're gonna have the interest, which is 192, equals the principal, which is 800. Now, R, we said that we don't know what the rate is. We know it's gonna be in percent form, but we don't know what it is yet. So we're gonna put the variable R times T, which remember that I told you T has to be in years. In this case, they already told you 8 years, so you don't have to go and divide by 12 like I did for the first example. Okay, you don't have to do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and plug in 8. Okay, now we have to solve for R. Wherever the equal sign is, you're gonna separate your sides. And then on the right-hand side, I can multiply the 800 and the 8 because we know that both of these numbers are multiplying. Okay, so if I multiply those together, I end up with 6,400. Okay, and I still have the R there, so times R. Okay, now I have multiplication, so you have to do the opposite, divide by 6,400, cancel it. Do the same thing on this side. If you plug in 192 divided by 6,400 in a calculator, I already did that here, so I end up with 0.03. Okay, that's my answer for R. Now, keep in mind, R, which stands for rate, is always in percent form. Okay, so I can't leave my answer like this. So you're gonna move the decimal over twice. Okay, that would give me 3% equals R. So that's actually gonna be the final answer. So for some of these examples that are in your textbook, they're gonna give you all of the other variables, but then they're gonna have one that's missing. Whichever one is missing is the one that you need to solve for. Okay, so you're gonna set it up into your equation, your formula. You're gonna figure out which one is the missing variable, which in this case was R, and you're gonna solve for that variable, which we did here, okay? If R is the one that's missing, keep in mind it has to be in percent form. If T is the one that's missing, make sure that your answer is in years, okay?